Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, November 13th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, Ohio State 48, Michigan State 3. I don't think anybody saw this coming, maybe not even Ohio State's players or coaches. It was like the perfect performance from Ohio State, at least close to perfect. JT had a couple interceptions, one that I thought was just a great play by the DB. And JT does underthrow his receivers at times, but overall, I mean, what a performance from the Buckeyes, beating that team by 45 points. Just your thoughts on the Michigan State game.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I was stunned. I mean, I predicted the Ohio State win, but I had it, I think, 31-23, a close game in classic D'Antonio Urban that we've seen, the last 5 times that they played. I think the largest margin of victory for Ohio State was 14 back in 2014. I think the largest margin of victory for the Spartans was 12. So it was kind of crazy to me. I did not expect to beat down to that proportion, especially when you talk about the stakes at hand when it comes to taking control of the Big Ten East in a big way. And Ohio State coming off that Iowa loss, a gut instinct in me kind of felt like they were going to flop and just kind of roll over, but. In typical Ohio State under Urban Meyer fashion, they bounced back in a huge way, and it was D'Antonio's team who was quitting almost mid-first quarter the way Ohio State was taking it to them. And so, that's a great win for Ohio State. They can't get too high on themselves. They obviously have a game against Illinois this week, which should, be fairly easy, even if they don't take it too seriously. But, they do have a game in Ann Arbor in 2 weeks, and I think, first of all, the Wolverines are technically still in the Big Ten East race, and if they beat Wisconsin, they're going to have a shot. But, I'll say that no matter what, the Wolverines are going to give the Buckeyes all they can handle in Ann Arbor in 2 weeks. So I think Ohio State needs to keep their foot on the gas and keep it going.
Looking at the linebacker position, some of the best things in life happen by accident, and maybe by accident Ohio State found its best alignment at linebacker. Tuf Borland in the middle. I mean, he is a true middle linebacker. Led the team with 11 tackles against Michigan State. Chris Worley, not a true middle linebacker. He was kind of miscast there to start the season. He played well, I thought, at outside linebacker last year. They moved him to outside linebacker against Michigan State. It was the other outside linebacker position, but still an outside backer position, which they're pretty much interchangeable. And I'm going to ask Urban Meyer about this today if somebody else doesn't, but I'm curious if Ohio State feels like they have found their best alignment at linebacker with Borland in the middle and Worley on the outside. That means either Baker or Booker is going to have to stay on the bench when they come back. Your thoughts on that? What do you think will happen? What should happen?
I think there tends to be a little bit of an overreaction, good and bad, when things happen for Ohio State. So like last week when they got the Malashvili, people want their starters replaced. They want Greg Schiano fired. They wanted, Urban's now on the hot seat, and JT Barrett needs to be benched again, and blah, 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 blah. So, I think when something good happens, like the performance against Michigan State, I think there tends to be a little overreaction. I mean, the defensive line was horrible against Iowa. So, the linebackers looked horrible against the run and things like that. And so if the defensive line played like they did against Michigan State, against Iowa, would the linebackers have looked better? Would Akram Wadley has run as wild as he did? I don't know. We can't answer that question. And so if the defensive line played as poorly as they did against Iowa, against Michigan State, would the linebackers have played as well as they did? I don't know. So I do think, Tuf Borland, he's had his I think he's had some good moments. I think he's had some bad moments this year. I think that I will agree with you 1,000% that I think Chris Worley is a more natural outside linebacker, and I think that's the better place for him. But as you said, it's the question now, Dante Booker and Jerome Baker, who are you taking off the field? When are you taking them off the field? You're really going to take, potentially your 3 best linebackers, one of them off the field at a time. And I know people will sit here and say, well, Booker and Baker have stuck all year. Well, I actually thought before the Iowa game they were both kind of coming on pretty nicely. I know some of those opponents were they were doing everything they can. They were playing fast. They were playing simple. They were making big plays. The Iowa game, I thought all 3 guys played poorly. Same thing with the Oklahoma game in the 2 losses. But I think you have to find a balance there somewhere where I think maybe there's a way to rotate guys around based on down and distance, based on situation in the game, get Borland in the middle, get Worley outside, maybe take out Booker or Baker, who's ever worse, in coverage or against the run or whatever the situation is. Alabama rotates their linebackers in all the time. They have bigger guys who are better against the run. They have lighter, faster outside guys who are better against the pass. And I think Ohio State needs to start thinking about that because they do have, 3 to 5 guys who can, maybe even 6 guys who could play linebacker and have their, various strengths and weaknesses. And I think they need to find a balance there. So it will be interesting to see what Urban says to you today, and then I think what he does next week, because I do think they are going to recognize that, the linebackers did play very well this week. Maybe there could be something there, as far as, maybe mixing and matching in situations, and I think this is the perfect week to kind of test some of that stuff out.
I'm also going to ask Urban about this ridiculous targeting penalty. I mean, I feel like if somebody's launching themselves and trying to take somebody's head off, they should be ejected. But these glancing blows, when it's not targeting, it's not the spirit of the rule. I mean, at the very least, my suggestion is there should be take a page out of soccer's book. Where again, unless it's an egregious penalty, where basically you give a guy a yellow card, you still give the 15-yard penalty, but the guy is not kicked out of the game. Like Draymond Jones should not have been kicked out of the game. And then if he does it a second time, even if it's a glancing blow, helmet to helmet, even if it's not, then he's kicked out. Second time you're kicked out. I know Urban's not going to sit there and blast the officials and everything, but I know he's not a fan of this penalty too, so I'm curious what he's going to say, because I guess you could say it has cost Ohio State already this year with Nick Bosa. Even though the game was tied at that point against Iowa, I still think Iowa was going to win that game even if Nick Bosa stayed in there. But just your thoughts, should the targeting penalty change to what I suggested, to maybe another suggestion, or does it just need to stay the way it is now, Alex?
It definitely doesn't need to stay the way it is now. If anyone who follows me on Twitter, and it's not just Ohio State, it's around the country, the inconsistency, not only with calling it and then enforcing it, it's absolutely absurd. I think the referees sometimes just they're either scared to call it, or when they call it, they're scared to overturn it for the backlash, even if something's incidental or whatever. I just think the rule way, because Draymond Jones hit, was it a late hit? Was it unnecessary roughness? Absolutely. I mean, he hit that guy way after the ball was out of his hands, and there was no excuse for that. But did he have a vicious helmet-to-helmet hit where he was trying to hurt the guy? Absolutely not as well. So, the fact that guy gets ejected for that play, that Denzel Ward gets ejected for his play early in the year, even Damon Arnett's play, while it was technically the definition of targeting, and that was the right call, I mean, he didn't viciously go after the guy. And I think for an immediate ejection, it needs to be like a Danny Trevathan earlier in this year, very clear, vicious hit that you were intentionally going to hurt someone or going for the helmet-to-helmet blow. And I think that's where it needs to be. And I like your recommendation of, all right, you can call targeting. It's a 15-yard penalty and a warning, similar to what they're doing for the personal fouls and the celebration and things like that. I think in the NFL, I'm not sure if they're doing it in college, but where they'll call, a guy and they'll say it's his first, whatever penalty, and the second one, so I think your yellow card, red card analogy, I think would be a good way to go, because those guys are being a little bit more careful as far as what they're doing. It still hurts the 15-yard penalty, but it's on the ejection for the rest of the game, or they're potentially the next game, which is what we saw with David Arnett against Nebraska.
I'm having a little trouble with Alex's connection. I apologize for that. He is in New York City, though, so we're having a little trouble with his connection. But one more question before I let you go, Alex. Quarterback recruiting. I know there's a lot to talk about, but quarterback recruiting, how do you think it's eventually going to shake out for the Buckeyes for the 2018 class, and what is the absolute latest with quarterback recruiting?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Emory Jones is still an Ohio State commit. People around him will still tell you he's an Ohio State commit. And, it's weird because he visited he visited Auburn this weekend. He visited Alabama a few weeks back, right before his official visit to the Ohio State. People thought he was going to be at the Alabama-LSU game. He was not there, which I took as a good sign for Ohio State. But then he shows up at Auburn this weekend. And Ohio State, they offered Jaron Williams, who decommitted from Kentucky this past Sunday. They offered him a few weeks back. He'll take an official visit to Ohio State next weekend for their game against Illinois. But now it looks like Miami's in the driver's seat for him after his visit there for the Notre Dame win. Matthew Baldwin was up for an unofficial. He'll be back for an official. He got an offer yesterday, so now he's in the mix. They also hosted Tennessee quarterback commit Adrian Martinez from California on an official visit this weekend. So those are kind of three guys they're looking at from Ohio State. It's more of a, we just want to protect ourselves should Emory go elsewhere. Emory is their number one guy. Their number one priority remains keeping him in the class. That said, though, I mean, you look at the actions, not the words, and it sure seems like Emory Jones is on his way out the door. Now, things can change very quickly in recruiting, as they always do. If I had a gun to my head, I would probably say Emory Jones goes elsewhere right now, just because of of his actions and what he is doing, and how Ohio State's, starting to kind of pick up the pace on recruiting quarterbacks in the 2018 class. So that would be my best bet. And then that's what Ohio State does. I'm really not sure who they're going to end up with. There's probably going to be more names popping on the radar, especially if Emory does formally decommit and flip somewhere else. But I think fans don't need to worry. It's not going to be a Stephen Keller situation, and no disrespect to Stephen, but he was a guy who really never had a shot to start at Ohio State, and I don't think they're going to take someone like that. Even if they take someone like Matthew Baldwin, who's the lowest rated of the three guys I mentioned, he's someone who I'm told can be, has a shot to be a starter in the Big Ten, and if not, he's going to be a really darn good backup. And so I think Ohio State's going to be just fine at the quarterback position. They're going to get a guy who, like Stephen Collier, like they were going to put in Jalen Marshall before him in the 2014 season. That's not going to happen with this. They're going to have a guy who maybe he'll never be a starter, but maybe he'll be a guy who they won't be afraid to put into games should they need to. So I think everything's going to be just fine. But again, priority number one remains keeping Emory Jones in the class, and right now he's still in the class.
Great stuff from Alex Gleitman, as always. Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you all the listeners for out there tuning into this show. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Again, programming note, Urban Meyer today, 11:45 a.m. We'll have lunch bucks from Vladi's Deli, Easy Living Deli there on Lane Avenue, iconic Ohio State spots. So check out lunch bucks. That'll be about 1:30. We'll have that on Facebook Live. So, again, thanks to Alex, and thanks to all the listeners. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.